There's one thing that this Jet fan base knows, Matt, is we know how important the NFL draft is. So when we get stories like what happened yesterday, seemingly out of the blue, everyone overreacts, whether or not they should be overreacting or not. You just know how Jet fans are going to react. So the Jets, they canceled a pre-draft visit with David Bailey, who was the betting favorite to go number 2 to the New York Jets next Thursday night. Connor Hughes of SNY was the first to break the story. This was Hughes on Sports Night last night, breaking down the latest.
It's noteworthy, Eamon. That's kind of how I would describe it. This doesn't necessarily rule the Jets out from drafting Bailey. I don't think this necessarily pushes them to Reese more than before. But I think going into Thursday's draft, most people believe that the Jets are going to take a pass rusher there with the second overall selection if they're unable to trade back, which they are not expected to be able to. And that player is either going to be Reese or Bailey. And there's been a lot of rumors and a lot of rumblings about Bailey being their preferred option going into the draft. I don't know if this necessarily changes it. I mean, look, this is one of two ways. It basically means that the Jets to this point have seen everything that they need to see about Bailey. They've met with him at his pro day. They've met with him at the combine. They've gotten the medical things checked out. They've obviously studied a ton of film and seen him work. They have the book on him. Whether or not they draft him, well, that's yet to be seen. But certainly they don't believe they need any extra time looking at him.
So that was last night. And then this morning, Adam Schefter sent out a tweet responding to Connor's original post reporting the news about the visit being canceled. And Schefter wrote, quote, "The Jets had all the information they already needed on David Bailey. They felt there was no reason for a visit." So I look at it like this. This could mean one of possibly two things. One, the Jets know that they're taking David Bailey, so they don't want to waste Bailey's time or their time. They're just going to take him at 2, and they're good to go. Or they know they're not taking David Bailey, and welcome to the New York Jets, Reese. Or it's just a giant smokescreen in the Jets after you had seemingly every draft guru say, oh, it's done, deal. They're taking Bailey at 2. Now maybe they're throwing a final smokescreen here 1 week out before this draft. I feel like it's one of the two, or maybe that third scenario I floated. Where are you at with this story here? What do you think it all means?
So I do agree with one of the things you said, where I think this means the Jets have made their decision. What that decision is, though, is up in the air. Like, I saw a lot of people reacting to the initial report from Connor and going, oh, that means it's Reese season. I was like, I don't know about that. Like, usually you have meetings with people to get some more information and find out some things, like the medicals, for example. And they have met with him at least twice already. So they probably got all that they needed. I don't know if this information, like if you could really lean one way or the other, but I do think it's Reese or David Bailey. And we're just going to have to wait another week before we finally get that answer.
It's amazing because it doesn't feel like there is an answer at this point. I mean, look, if you're Darren Muji and you're planting a smokescreen, props to you, man, because I don't think anyone really has any idea what the Jets are doing. So I hope it's that, and not that the Jets really don't have any sort of plan and they're just kind of making it up as they go along. I don't think that's the case. But again, as we sit here right now, I felt like it was going to be Reese for a while. Then you had some of this Bailey smoke, and I was like, I still kind of think it's going to be Reese. But now I really don't know. I'll make a final prediction at some point next week before this draft gets underway. But I really have no idea what they're going to do at 2. And then, the other picks from there, there's a lot to be discussed as well.
Yeah, nobody knows, right? This is all just kind of guessing at this point. And I guess that's a good thing for the Jets in this regime. They've done a pretty good job of not leaking things out. For instance, in 2021, the whole world knew that Zach Wilson was going to be the pick from like December on. And there's been a lot of speculation on it. I don't know the reasoning behind all this David Bailey push over the last week or so. I do think he's in play, but to me, I think it really comes down to the two guys we've been talking about the most here in Reese and David Bailey. And like I said, it's kind of just a wait and see scenario.
Who do you want in the draft? Not who do you think they will, but what's your preference at this point?
Yeah, I would take Reese. I just really like the versatility that he has. I think he could come in and be, a really good linebacker immediately. And the pass rush upside, I think, is there. He was speaking to, I believe, Benjamin Solak, and talking about how there wasn't really no pass rush moves. He was kind of just winging it out there. And he was winning because of his, athletic ability. And I think if groomed properly, he could end up being a really good pass rusher. So I just think the ceiling's too high for me to pass up on with Reese.
It's a really tough decision because I like both players. I lean Reese for reasons you outlined, the upside possibility, the different things you could do with him when you play in a division that has a freak in Josh Allen, has an ascending star quarterback in Drake May, who's certainly mobile with his legs. Like you watch the way Ohio State used Arvell Reese, he lines up everywhere. He could spy the quarterback. He could, rush the passer. I think he's just scratching the surface on what he could be as a player. You just got to make sure he has the right coaching, which concerns me a little bit with the Jets. But I will say they hired a really good D-line coach in Carl Dunbar, so that makes me feel a lot better about that pick. The one thing I don't want, though, Matt, I don't want the Jets to take Bailey because he's the safer pick and, oh, they know what he is. Like, draft the best football player, and you're not drafting for 2026. There's been some that have said, well, the reason why the Jets are leaning Bailey is because they're trying to save Glenn's job, and this player is going to be more effective in year one than Reese would be in year one. The Jets win total is 5.5. Like you can't be trying to save a coach's job with the second pick in the draft if it's a non-quarterback. That's not even how that works.
Yeah, I know. I'm totally with you on that. I think that would be drafting David Bailey for all the wrong reasons. And look, I think you can make a case for the Jets drafting David Bailey if they really, are looking for an edge rusher and pass rush, and they think he is the best pass rusher in this draft, then by all means, take him if that's what you want to do. But if your argument for taking David Bailey is we think he's going to be better in year one and we got to save our jobs, that is not the right reason to draft somebody.
No, you cannot. That would just be such a disaster on so many different levels. All right, Asmaniacs, listen up for a second. No matter what you're watching, whether it's New York sports or any game you didn't plan on caring about, there's no better way to stay locked in than with PrizePicks. It's daily fantasy made simple. You're just picking more or less on player projections. That's it. No complicated lineups, no nonsense. Just you versus the numbers. And here's why I love it. Even if it's a game you normally wouldn't care about, once you got a lineup going, you're locked in. Every play matters, every drive matters, every at-bat matters. I've been mixing sports too. Maybe a little football, throwing some baseball, maybe some basketball, and now you've got action across the board all night, and PrizePicks makes it even better with features like early cash outs if your picks are hitting, the ability to mix multiple sports in one lineup, and you can even see what other people are playing and tail their picks. So if you haven't tried it yet, what are you doing? Download the PrizePicks app right now. Use code HMA. That's HMA, and you'll get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, it's HMA on PrizePicks. PrizePicks, where it always feels good to be right.
I mean, you're basically talking about a guy that's in Bailey that's a little bit more polished right now as a pass rusher compared to Reese, which I think it has the more upside. But, I think he brings a lot of versatility. I mean, you can put him at off-ball linebacker. You put him as a edge rusher, too. You can really be the quarterback of your defense if you really wanted to. And I think that's something the Jets should really want especially on the defense that needs so much too as well, even though they've addressed a lot of needs in free agency, especially getting a guy like, Demario Davis there in addition to Minka Fitzpatrick at the safety position. But adding a guy like Arvell Reese could be the cornerstone of your defense for years to come. And the thing about Bailey for me, I think you already have someone like that in the building already, and Will McDonald, who's, kind of struggles with run defense too at times. And, we're talking about a Jets defense that really struggled in that area a year ago. And I think, a guy like Arvell Reese, which I think is more of a sure tackler there. And again, we know the talent that he brings, especially as an edge rusher too as well. It may take him a little bit more time to develop there. But, I think it's worth it in the end too as well. And I don't think you can necessarily, I know Aaron Glenn is perceived to be on the hot seat, but I don't think you can make the pick, just because like you may or may not be fired. I think you need to make the best pick for the organization. And I think that's Arvell Reese.
So you would go with Reese. If they take Bailey, would that be the wrong pick? Would that be disappointing? Just your thoughts on the domino effect of going Bailey over Reese.
I don't think it'd be disappointing, but I just think you leave yourself susceptible to giving up a lot of rushing yards too as well, something they did already last year. And again, like we already have questions with Will McDonald and can he, be a run defender on a consistent basis? And so far in the league, that has not been the case there. I mean, we talk about a guy that's, really the whole Jets team last year struggled in a variety of different areas, including allowing a lot of rushing yards, and getting a guy like Arvell Reese, I think would definitely help in that area. So I don't think it'd be disappointing, but I don't think it'd be the right choice too as well. I think if you don't want to go Arvell Reese, then you could trade if it's an opportunity to trade down. Then trade down and grab a guy like Sonny Styles, who I think also would be a more of a beneficial pick for your defense as opposed to David Bailey, which again, like I think you already have somebody like him already in Will McDonald.
What do you make of just how drastic the shift has been, where it feels like all the draft people, all the insiders now think it's going to be Bailey instead of Reese? Is it possible that this is a smokescreen, or do you really think the Jets at this point have honed in on David Bailey being their guy?
I don't think anybody knows what the Jets are going to do. It's Lion season. I mean, it's hard to know what to believe at this time of the year. I mean, somebody could have just said it and, they could have ran with it because it seems like a lot, especially the ESPN guys, it seems like they're running with, going with more David Bailey, which is the more proven pass rusher, at least on the collegiate level there, as opposed to Arvell Reese, he's only 20 years old. So I think sky's the limit. I don't think he has a ceiling, to be honest with you. I don't think we know how good he can be. In the perfect world, you think he could possibly be a guy like I hate to put labels on him, but sort of in the mold of like a Michael Parsons. That would probably be the best case scenario. And if that's the best case scenario, I think that's what you got to take. You got to take them there. So yeah, I think I find it real interesting. A lot of the ESPN guys, NFL Network guys, are really online and taking David Bailey. I just think you have to do the best thing for your franchise, and I really think Arvell Reese would probably be the better pick at this point.
You've had people like Todd McShay, Daniel Jeremiah, Matt Miller. They've all said a different version of, hey, the reason why they would take David Bailey over Reese is, well, Bailey, he's the better pass rusher right away, and in the Jets building, they need someone right now to help Aaron Glenn keep his job. You just alluded to this earlier in one of your answers. Again, I like David Bailey, but if the reason they're drafting him is because he might be better at rushing the quarterback right away, and that's better for Glenn, I don't know. I hope that's not the reason why they would choose Bailey over Reese. What are you hearing in regards to that?
Yeah, I don't think that. I think they would choose the best available player. Like they talked, you going back to the owners meeting when we talked to Aaron Glenn and Darren Muji. Aaron Glenn basically said it himself. Like, if you love the player, go get the player. So if that's in line of what he's saying and kind of just what I've heard, then you got to go get Arvell Reese too. It doesn't matter. Like, I understand he's 20 years old. He'll be 21 in August too. I understand he said it, like he has a lot to get better at, including as a pass rusher, being a little bit more polished there. But I love what I've seen. I mean, he was the linebacker of the year in Big Ten last year, consistent All-American. Like, again, a variety of different ways to use him on the field there. It could be the ultimate chess piece, as opposed to David Bailey, who is good at one thing, which is great. But at the same time, again, like, I have questions about, his size. Can he add more size? Can he be a more physical run defender too as well? And I think, a guy like Arvell Reese has already shown he can be that dominant player in the run game too, as well as a pass rusher. And that's the direction I would go in.
Yeah, I just found out about that by Connor Hughes right before we came on. So we don't know when that visit was scheduled for. First of all, that could have been 2 or 3 weeks ago. And secondly, I would not read into it as a negative necessarily. I mean, most of these 30 visits are when teams have medical questions, medical rechecks. They haven't gotten an opportunity either at the Combine or the Senior Bowl or a pro day to sit down with the guy, have a conversation, have an extensive meeting. So they're usually checking boxes when they bring these guys in. So it could mean that they don't need any more boxes checked with David Bailey, that they feel entirely comfortable with who he is as a player and a person. That could be one of the reasons. Or perhaps it was a logistical reason. I do not know. This is pretty new. And so I would not read into it as the Jets are crossing off Bailey off their draft list. I would not eliminate him from the number 2 pick based on that information.
Very similar to what we were just saying, that the Jets have not ultimately eliminated him or selected him. It could mean a multitude of things. Matt, do you see a scenario where this could lead to a team that wants to come up to number 2 and the Jets can trade out of that spot?
Yeah, maybe. And that could be part of the reason why the Jets are doing this, pushing the David Bailey smoke right now. There's rumors of Dallas being interested in him, and there's also rumors of Dallas being interested in Sonny Styles. But maybe this is them trying to get some more ammo and trade back and pick up some more additional picks. I'm not completely sold that the Jets are going to be able to trade out at 2. I've said this for a while, but of the 4 picks the Jets have in the first 2 rounds, I think 33 is their most likely trade down spot. But you never know, right? You want to keep your options open. So I think that's definitely something that could be on the table.
Comments, questions, super chats. We'll cut the line. Jet fans, who's the pick at number 2? Is it Reese or is it Bailey? And who do you want? Let us know in the chat, and we will read some of the best responses to all that. At 16, Matt, this week there's been a groundswell of people discussing a trade up out of that number 16 spot. Give me your thoughts on the Jets potentially moving up from 16 to try and get one of the top receivers in the class.
Yeah, I would be interested in trading 16 and 44 to move up if Carnell Tate is there at pick 7, right? That seems to be the spot. I really like Carnell Tate. I think he is my number 1 receiver, and I think he's a really good fit to complement with Garrett Wilson. It really depends on, I think they need to have a feel for where the draft is going to go. If they think some of these top guys are going to be gone before they get to pick number 16, I don't mind being aggressive and picking your spots, right? Like, you have a ton of draft assets over the next couple of years. If you're honing in on one guy in particular and think Carnell Tate could be, a really nice long-term running mate, then, I'm totally in on that.
Is Carnell Tate your clear number 1? Like, what's the gap between him and the other guys?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty close, but I do have Carnell Tate as the number 1. My next guy that I would like to see would be Lemon, who I think there's a chance that he's there at 16. I don't know about you, but the Jordan Tyson stuff, I think he's unbelievably talented, but the injuries are a real concern for me. He's missed time in 3 of his 4 collegiate seasons, and I just think it's too big of a gamble.
I wouldn't trade up for him. If he's there at 16, I think I would almost have to take him. But the problem is, if the Jets plan is just to wait at 16, there's no guarantee that one of the guys that you want is going to be there.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point and a call out. And supposedly they really like Omar Cooper Jr. too. So that is someone who I think will be there at 16. So it depends, right? I think it's, on their evaluation, how much of a gap is there between Carnell Tate and Omar Cooper Jr. And if they really like Cooper, then you might as well just, stay put and take him and keep your draft assets.
Documented wrote in, Carnell Tate would be the least explosive top 10 wide receiver pick in history. Yeah, but that's not why you draft a guy or not, because look at the history of so many different receivers that fell in the draft because they were perceived to be a lot slower. Like Jackson Smith and Jigba was drafted in the middle of the first round. Should have been a Jet, as we all know, but there's so many examples of that. Look where some of the top guys in the league were selected. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Justin Jefferson, like the list goes on and on. Very few guys, immediately come in or in our top 10 receivers in the league. Even Garrett Wilson, if you were doing a redraft, he'd go higher than where he went. He went 10 to the Jets, and that was, on the back end, of course, of the top 10. It was number 10. So I'm not really concerned about that. Plus, this is a draft class that is not your typical draft class. There's way less first-round graded players this year than in other classes. So if you're the Jets and you have extra picks and you desperately need a wide receiver, if Tate's your guy, go and get him. Yeah,
I'm with you on that. And, I don't know. Didn't Ted McMillan go in the top 10 last year? And he had a slightly better 40 time than Carnell Tate, but I wouldn't really classify him as a burner. And we had conversations about him around this time last year. I think it's just prospect fatigue, man. We're looking for reasons why not to draft somebody, and I think this is overthinking it.
I think that's really well said. Atlanta Jet fan with an off-topic question, but fascinating nonetheless. With the recent Dianna Russini, Mike Vrabel situation, could her negative Jets coverage have been influenced by their relationship? And did we avoid a potential issue when he interviewed for the Jets job? Look, the bottom line is this. If Mike Vrabel was the Jet coach, they'd be in a way better spot. All right. We could separate the two. I've seen some people be like, oh, well, why did she essentially have to lose her job and nothing happens to Vrabel? Because Mike Vrabel's job is to be a football coach that wins games, and he's one of the best in the league at it. His team was in the Super Bowl in his first year in New England this past year. That's the difference. His job, what he did was wrong, but it has no impact on his ability to do his job at a high level. Dianna Russini is supposed to be an unbiased journalist, so if she's allegedly canoodling and sleeping with the head coach of an NFL team, it calls into question her credibility and how she gets certain stories and why certain stories are out there. You can't do the job honestly if you have a relationship like that with one of the 32 head coaches in the league. So that it is a totally different situation. Obviously, if Vrabel was the Jet coach and this story broke, it would be a huge deal, but Jet fans would have his back because he would have had taken our team to the Super Bowl if the situations were reversed and we were Patriot fans in this odd scenario. You know what I mean? It's like the two things are not the same thing. Like one's personal, one's professional. From a Vrabel standpoint, Russini mixed the professional with the personal, which is why the New York Times basically said, you're done. And she put out that statement, not denying anything, but then just walking away.
Yeah, no, and it's a tough situation too. But I mean, look at the Patriots owner. I don't think he's going to hold Mike Vrabel to that after some of the allegations out there about him. So, you know, like you said, it's tough, but because of the job that Russini had, she's going to be held to a different standard.
And again, I'm not saying what Mike Vrabel did, if this is all true, is right. Like, he's married and he has kids, but he's not going to lose his job over it. Like, Dianna Russini is supposed to be an unbiased reporter. Now, we can laugh and say none of these people are truly unbiased, and yeah, that's all fair. But that's the job. And the Athletic is owned by the New York Times, and they have a huge ethic standard compared to other sports media outlets. It's a lot higher, the threshold of what they approve of and don't approve of. So, like, that's it. And, like, again, as far as her stepping down, if she was innocent or on a group trip, as her original statement to Page Six said, you'd produce photos where someone would come out and vouch that they were with Dianna, and that hasn't happened. So, like, again, do I think she'll get a job again? Yeah, she'll probably be able to cover football again or do a podcast, but no, like an ESPN or a Fox or the New York Times, for example, they won't hire her, but she'll work again. I think the idea that her career is just over, I don't buy that at all.
No, I don't either. Her role is obviously going to have to be a little bit different now. I don't think she can claim being a journalist, but that doesn't mean that you can't do something in media. Like, clearly there's a lot of different stuff that you could do. So we'll see. I would expect her to be covering the NFL in some capacity next year.
And by the way, if Mike Vrabel was the Jet coach, I would welcome all these type of scandals as long as he wins, because that's all that people go. Rex Ryan got caught with videos of him and his wife having foot fetish stuff out there. And did any Jet fan care? No, we laughed at it. It was awesome. On our way to the AFC Championship game for the second year in a row.
Yeah, probably would have played a little different if the Jets were 3-14 that year, right?
Yeah, that happens to Aaron Glenn this year, for example. Goodbye. It's a way bigger situation.
Hey, here's the deal. Just got no chance unless you click on that like button. And you got to make sure you subscribe to the Jake Asman Show. You don't, you can get the f*** out. Now let's go, Asmaniacs. We're built for this shit.